biggest difference between the rest of the panelists and me is I've been in this country for 25 years. My entire 25-year experience in IT has been in the U.S., primarily 3 companies. I was a distinguished engineer and member of the IBM Academy of Technology. I spent about 10 years at IBM building out their e-business business. The next 10 years of my career were spent as CIO for Nationwide, which is the 4th largest insurer in the U.S. and a Fortune 100 company. And the last couple of years, I was at HP building out their enterprise services, in the areas of analytics and cloud and other areas. What I'm doing right now is, again, I think it's a very relevant topic because I do believe the services industry is ripe for a pretty significant change to get to the 225. So a couple of months ago, I launched a new startup called Right Brain Systems, and we'll touch on a couple of those things there. But my role, I think, what I'm going to try to do today is to bring the consumer of these services perspective into it, because a lot of these guys here have had a lot more experience in India than I have. But as a consumer of these services and as somebody who's run a services organization globally, I try to bring that perspective to this. Thanks.
So let's start, we're going to take a top-down approach. So what I want to start and talk about is the infrastructure, both physical as well as intangible infrastructure, and if that is in place to really generate this growth to 200 to 25 billion. So I'm going to hand this over actually to Anuj. Talk a little bit about both physical infrastructure as opposed to just connectivity, fiber, and also the intangibles, the education system, the regulatory regime, and how you see that as driving this going forward.
Okay, so I think when we talk of infrastructure, really the the supply side of this. I mean, we've reached the 100 billion mark. It's going to double that over the next 8 odd years. I think bulk of the infrastructure that's been supporting this has been in the big metros, and I think that's what this has been about. We've all been hearing about going to tier 2 cities, but I think it's more about going all the way down to the top 100 cities of India, and having the ability to be able to work from there and create that pool. So we heard a lot about education in the previous panel. We're seeing a lot of that happening as we move down. I can particularly talk about telecom. I think the last decade and a half, we've penetrated voice tremendously in the country. We're going to have 1 billion connections by the end of before the end of this year. But I think the next wave is about